on the Iraqi government to take responsibility for its own security and future. The President is sending mixed signals. He has finally said that this is not an open-ended commitment in Iraq, but he's providing the Iraqis with an open-ended presence of American troops. We need to change course. It would be a great irony if the administration's emphasis on escalating our presence in Iraq caused it to ignore the threat facing Afghanistan, where those responsible for planning the September 11th attacks are still our enemies. The President's team is pursuing a failed strategy in Iraq as it edges closer to collapse. And Afghanistan needs more of our concerted effort and attention. I support making several changes. Secretary Bai and I sent a letter today to Secretary of Defense Gates reflecting what we heard from our military commanders. They asked for additional troops. Now, if they were asking us, I assume they're asking others as well. They were asking for 2 additional infantry battalions in the South, and that if, as is planned, there is a rotation out of a battalion in the East, and that eventually it will be redeployed to Iraq, that battalion be replaced or not moved. I plan to introduce legislation with regard to Iraq that includes 3 components. First, it will cap the number of troops in Iraq at the levels they existed on January 1st, and will require the administration to seek congressional authorization for any additional troops. This type of troop limit has ample historical precedent, including a cap on the number of U.S. troops in Lebanon in 1983, and more recently, Congress has limited the number of U.S. troops in Colombia. Second, as a means to increase our leverage with the Iraqi government, my legislation would also impose conditions for continued funding of the Iraqi security forces and the private contractors working for the Iraqis. It would require certification that the security forces were free of sectarian and militia influence and were assuming greater responsibility for Iraqi security. I do not support cutting funding for American troops, but I do support cutting funding for Iraqi forces if the Iraqi government does not meet set conditions. Finally, my
Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton of New York at her much-anticipated news conference reporting on her recent visit to Iraq and Afghanistan, along with her Congressman McHugh from upstate New York and also Senator Evan Bayh of Indiana. With us now to talk about it from Washington, NPR Senior National